Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make this super cute duck. This is like a rubber duck style pattern because it doesn't have wings or anything, but I think it's so cute and I can't wait to show you guys how to make it. It's no sew and it's very quick and easy, so perfect for market prepping. This pattern is going to be part of our 10 weeks of market tutorials series here on the channel, and there's already 5 weeks posted, so this is week 6, and in the past 5 weeks we have made so many cute things: a no-sew turtle, a velvet scrunchie, a bee, a no-sew jellyfish, and stress balls. So stay tuned for all 10 weeks of the tutorials and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss them. But now let's get into the materials you're going to need to make this. So we're going to start out with yarn. For yarn, you'll need one base color, so any color you want to use for the base. I would suggest using yellow if you want it to be like a traditional rubber duck, but I'm going to be using light yellow for this one, and the past 2 I've used a darker yellow color, so it's just whatever you want. This is Bernat baby blanket, but you can use Bernat blanket or anything that's weight 6 super bulky. And then you also need a color for the beak, and this is what I'm going to be using. I did try and get orange yarn in advance of making this tutorial, but I could not find any, so I've been using this yarn that's like variegated with orange in it. So I just cut like a strip of the orange part. It's not ideal, and to be honest with you, I kind of had to like base the beak pattern around not having very much orange. So if you want to modify the beak at all to like make it bigger or anything, you definitely can do that, but I'm going to be showing you how I do it using this yarn, and this is Bernat blanket weight 6 super bulky yarn. So now that we have our yarn, let's get into materials. For materials, I'm going to be using a 8mm hook for this pattern. You can also use a 6mm, but it will come out smaller, just so you guys know. You'll also need a stitch marker to keep track of your round, a tapestry needle for just like sewing it up at the end and weaving in the end. I'm going to be using 2 16mm safety eyes and the backs. I just like using 16, but you can use whatever you think looks better. I tried it with 12 and I prefer 16. And then I also have a pair of scissors, and I also have polyfill stuffing, but I didn't include it on the screen because it's too big, but you will also need stuffing to stuff your duck. So now that we have all of our materials, let's get into how to make the duck. A few disclaimers before we start. The first one, my desk does look dirty. It's not dirty. I cleaned it, I promise. It's just like stained and marked because I've had it since I was a kid. And also, when I do tutorials, I like to say my tutorials are usually beginner friendly, but they're not supposed to teach you how to crochet. So if you have no knowledge of how to crochet, you might struggle with this tutorial. And also, this one's a little more in depth than some of my other ones here on the channel. It's not crazy in depth, but it's just a little more in depth. So I'm not going to be going as specific as I might in like the stress balls tutorial. So if you need some more information or practice with how to do any of the stitches or steps, you can go ahead and watch like a how to crochet tutorial, or how to do a single crochet, or how to do a magic ring, etc. And then you can come back when you feel ready to do the tutorial. So with that being said, I am going to start out with a magic ring, and I find it best to show you guys just really slowed down version of how to do a magic ring rather than explaining it, because it's kind of difficult to explain. So I'm just going to do it very slowly. You can also do a chain 2 and work into the first chain if that would be easier for you guys. Now that we have our magic ring, we're going to start with round 1, and for round 1 we are going to start with 1 single crochet into the ring. So insert your hook into the magic ring, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through both the loops on your hook. And we're going to be repeating this 5 more times for a total of 6 single crochets in round 1. And once you have your 6 single crochets, you can close up your magic ring a little bit. And I do like to secure my magic rings with some knots, but I'm just going to do it in the next round just in case I need to like expand it again for any reason in the next round. Now we are complete round 1 when we have 6 single crochets in that magic ring. So now we're going to start with round 2. And for round 2, we are going to go into that very first stitch we made in round 1, and we're going to be making 1 single crochet. And then once I have the single, I'm just going to add my stitch marker in. And I am actually going to be working right back into that very same stitch we just worked into, because I'm going to be doing an increase. So just insert your hook into that very same stitch and put another single crochet into that same stitch. And then in the next stitch, you'll also want to put 2 single crochets or an increase. And that is what we will be repeating all the way around for round 2. So we'll go ahead and put 2 single crochets in every stitch all the way around. And this will leave us with a total of 12 stitches in round 2. Now that I'm done round 2, I'm just going to flip over my project and finish tightening up that ring and securing it with a couple of knots just to make sure it's nice and secure. And now we're going to be doing round 3. So we'll start round 3 by working into that first stitch and putting 1 single. And once we have the single, we'll add back our stitch marker. And then in the next stitch of the round, we're going to be putting an increase. So 2 single crochets into the very same stitch. And then we will repeat that. So 1 single crochet in the next stitch and 2 single crochets for an increase in the next stitch. And that is what we will be repeating for round 3 of the project. So 1 single crochet followed by an increase, a total of 6 times for 18 stitches in round 3. We now have completed round 3, so we're going to remove the stitch marker and start out round 4 by putting 1 single crochet into the first stitch of the round. And then I'm going to add back the stitch marker, and for round 4, I'm just going to be putting 1 single crochet in every single stitch all the way around. So our stitch count at the end of round 4 will still be 18 stitches because we're not increasing or anything. So just go ahead and put 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around, and then we will come back for round 5. Okay, now that we finished round 4, we're going to start round 5, and we are going to be doing our beacons row, so make sure you have that color for your beak close by. But we're going to start out by putting 1 single crochet into the first 8 stitches. So start out by putting 1 in that first stitch and add your stitch marker in, and then do 7 more for a total of 8 single crochets. And instead of going ahead and completing the 8th stitch, you'll notice that I just inserted my hook into that stitch, yarned over and pulled up a loop, but I did not go ahead and yarn over and finish off the stitch because I'm going to be color changing. So just going to grab my color I'm going to be using for the beak, and I'm going to put it against my hook like this, and then I'm going to pull it through the stitch. And hopefully you will not have to worry about this, but I'm gonna make sure none of that brown is showing. And then I am just going to make our beak. And to do the beak, I am going to be working into the front loop only. So when we have a crochet stitch, if you kind of turn them to the side, you can see they kind of make V shapes. So when we make a regular stitch, we work into both of those V's. But when we do a front loop only stitch, we only work into that very first one. So when you have your project facing you, it will be the loop that's closest to you. So I'm going to start by inserting my hook into that front loop only, and then I'm going to be placing a single crochet. And now that we have our first stitch of the beak, we are going to be working a half double stitch into the next front loop only. So yarn over and then go into that next front loop. yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 of the loops on your hook. And then to finish off the beak, we are going to be going into that very next front loop only and putting a single crochet. And before we finish off that single, we're going to be grabbing back our yellow yarn. So just find that yellow yarn, pull it across, and then just use that to finish off the single so that we're now back to our yellow. And then we are going to finish off this round by putting 1 single crochet into the next 7 stitches. And we will technically still have 18 stitches at the end of this round. And you can go ahead and cut off that beak color now because we won't be needing it again, so just cut it off. And then I like to go ahead and tie these 2 ends together just to make them extra secure. Just don't pull too tight, that will kind of make the beak bend in a weird way. But now that those are all secured, we are going to move on to round 6. And for round 6, we are going to start out by doing 1 single crochet. And we are going to be putting just 1 single crochet all the way around for a total of 18 stitches. But for the 3 stitches we worked into for the beak, we are going to be going into the back loop only of round 4. So let me just show you guys how to do that quickly. So we start by putting 8 single crochets just like normal. And then once we have our 8 single crochets, you just want to kind of bend the beak down and locate the back loops only from round 4. I also like to push this into the project, so I kind of like to go through it, which can make it a little trickier, but just go ahead and find those back loops. You can also mark those with a stitch marker if you find it easier, but you're just going to want to insert your hook into that very first back loop only. And once you have that inserted, you're just going to be doing a normal single crochet. And then repeat that in the next 2 back loops only. And once you've finished those 3 back loop only stitches, you're just going to work right back into the regular stitches. So just go into that first one and put a single and just continue that until you've done the 7 final single crochets of the round. Okay, now that we've finished round 6, we are going to start decreasing the head. To start out with our decreases, we're just going to be putting 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then in the next stitch we will be doing a invisible decrease. So to do that, we're going to be working into the front loops only. So go ahead and insert your hook into that first front loop only, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then go into that next front loop only, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. That is a invisible decrease. That is what we will be repeating all the way around for round 7. So 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then a invisible decrease into the next stitches. And we will be repeating a single crochet and then a decrease all the way around for a total of 12 stitches in this round. Okay, and here is the start of our decreases for the duck. We will be doing 1 more round of decreases to kind of finish up the head before we move on to the body. But before that, I'm just going to go ahead and add our eyes now. So for the eyes, we are going to be putting them between rounds 4 and 5. So count down from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right between rounds 4 and 5. And it's kind of like in line with the very top of the beak, if you can see that. And then I like to put them just 1 stitch away from the beak on either side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then just 1 stitch over. So about there. And then same thing for this one. So just kind of make sure they're nice and even looking, and then you can go ahead and add on the backs. And now that our eyes are nice and secured, we are going to start out with round 8. And for round 8, we are going to be putting invisible decreases all the way around. So invisible decrease in every stitch for a total of 6 stitches when we are done the row. Okay, and I've now finished my 6 decreases, so before we go any further, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my stuffing and stuff the head. Okay, here's the stuffed head. So now we're gonna be starting out with round 9, and we're gonna be starting the body in this round. And sorry if you can hear any background noise, because my mom's currently on the phone. But this is the reality of living at home, so that's fine. But hopefully you can't hear it. But anyways, I'm gonna remove the stitch marker. And like I said, we're gonna start with the body. So I'm gonna be making some chains. But before I make chains, I'm going to want to do a slip stitch into the first stitch of the round, just so that we're in the exact middle of the project when we chain. So we are going to insert our hook into that stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then just pull through that one loop on the hook. I'm going to insert my stitch marker, but you kind of don't have to because you're gonna know what it is probably. But we are now going to make a chain of 7. So yarn over and pull up a loop, and then repeat that for a total of 7. So we are now going to be putting single crochets down this chain, and we're going to be starting out in the second chain from the hook. So not the very first chain, but this one right here. So we're going to be putting single crochets right into the chain, and we're going to be making a total of 6. And then once we get down to the bottom, we will continue working into that. Okay, I now have my 6 single crochets down the chain, so we're going to continue working into the head now, and we're going to just work into that very next stitch, and we are going to be doing a increase. So 2 single crochets into that very same stitch, and that is what we will be repeating all the way around the head. So continue putting 2 single crochets in each stitch, or a increase around. And this will include the very first stitch slash the slip stitch, so it will be a total of 6 times. This is my 3rd set of increases. And this is my 4th. This is my 5th. And then remove that stitch marker and put the increase into the slip stitch we made. And then to finish off this round, go ahead and put 6 single crochets up the chain. So we're working into the bottom of the chain this time. So go ahead and work into that very first stitch and put a single crochet. And repeat that 5 more times for a total of 6. Okay, and we are now done our round 9, so we should have 24 total stitches in round 9. It will be 12 around the head, and then 6 up the chain and 6 down the chain for a total of 24. For rounds 10 and 11, we are going to be putting 24 single crochets around, so just 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around. And this again will be rounds 10 and 11, so 2 rows of just 1 single crochet all the way around for a total of 24. So I'm going to go ahead and do those 2 rounds just off camera, just working all the way around in every stitch for 2 rounds. And then once I'm finished rounds 10 and 11, I'm going to come back to you guys and we will work on finishing up the duck. Okay, now that we have finished rounds 10 and 11, we are going to work on round 12. So for round 12, we are going to start by doing 1 single crochet into that first stitch, and then in the next stitch we're going to be doing another single crochet, and then into the 3rd and 4th stitches we're going to be doing a invisible decrease, and that is what we will be repeating all the way around. So 2 single crochets and then a decrease for a total of 18 stitches in round 12. We're now done with round 12, so we're going to be doing round 13 here. So for round 13, we are just going to be putting 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around, and this will leave us with a total of 18 stitches in round 13. Okay, now that we're done that round, we're going to be doing round 14. So for round 14, we are going to be working into the back loop only for every single stitch. The reason we do that is just to make it a little bit flatter on the bottom so that it can kind of stand up on its own. They don't really stand up on their own the best anyways, but doing this just kind of helps flatten it out just a little bit on the bottom. So we're going to start by going into that first back loop. So instead of going into the loop closest to you of the stitch, we're going to be going into the one furthest from you and just make a single crochet. And then in the next back loops, we are going to be putting a decrease stitch. So instead of doing a invisible decrease in the front loops only, we are going to be doing a decrease in the back loops only. And then we're going to be doing 1 single crochet followed by another decrease, again in the back loops only, and repeat that all the way around. So 1 single crochet and then a decrease in the back loops only, a total of 6 times for 12 stitches in round 14. Okay, and that was our second last round, but before we finish the final round, round 15, we're going to be stuffing our duck. Now that it is stuffed, we can finish up stuffing it at the end, but we are going to finish off with round 15, and to do round 15, we are going to be putting 6 invisible decreases all the way around for a total of 6 stitches in round 15. Okay, now I'm going to just stuff it a little bit more before I close it up. You really don't want to overstuff them, especially on the bottom though, just because we want them to be as flat as possible on the bottom so they can kind of stand up a little bit. So I think that's good. And now I'm just going to chain and cut off the yarn. And I'm gonna grab my tapestry needle and just insert that onto the yarn. And then to close the bottom up, I'm just going to be working into the front loop only of each stitch from round 15 with my needle, and then I'll be pulling it tight to close it up. And then once it's all closed, I'm just going to add a couple of knots into a nearby stitch just to make it nice and secure. And to finish this project up, you're just going to want to go into a nearby stitch, insert your needle, and pull it out the other end. And then once we've pulled it through, you can either just cut off the excess, or you can just kind of keep weaving it through until it is like all hidden. I'm just going to cut off this extra. Just tuck the end in. And this is the completed rubber duck. So this is what it's looking like. It's so cute, and I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It is super quick and easy to make, and it's no sew, so I absolutely love it for market prepping. Let me know what color of duck you made and if you followed the tutorial and liked it, and don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe to see more videos like this one. And like I mentioned before, we have so many tutorials here on the channel, and I've specifically been doing market prep friendly tutorials for the past 5 weeks, and I'll be doing a total of 10 weeks of market prep tutorials, so make sure to stay tuned for all of those and check out the ones that I've already posted. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I will see you next time. Bye!